Before deciding whether Bernard Arnault is overpaying for forgotten labels, look at what management is actually optimizing for. Paris, 2024. LVMH keeps acquiring brands that inspire more shrug than applause. The market sees trophies. The board sees option value, distribution leverage, and a cue for future scarcity. The principal actor is Bernard Arnault, chairman and chief executive. A deal maker who has treated luxury houses less like fashion stories and more like enduring assets with uneven stewardship. Across the table sit family sellers, founders, advisors from Lazard and Rothschild, and bankers who know discretion bills better than spectacle. LVMH itself is the room. Wines and spirits, fashion and leather goods, perfumes and cosmetics, watches and jewelry, all mixed together. Selective retailing. The 2023 Universal Registration document runs hundreds of pages because the company is built as a federation. That structure matters. It can absorb odd assets without asking each one to carry the narrative. The setup begins with a point many investors miss. Luxury is a category where time is a productive asset. A weak brand with heritage, category permission, and a recognizable archive can be worth more under disciplined ownership than under a charming founder with erratic inventory control. Then there is the portfolio math. LVMH does not need every acquisition to move group revenue in year one. It needs the asset to fit a slot. A fragrance extension here, leather goods there. A watchmaker with credibility in a market where credibility cannot be manufactured by media spend. The prior deals gave the game away. Bulgari in 2011 was not merely jewelry scale. It tightened hard luxury. 2021 was not simply streetwear heat. It bought cultural relevance and talent adjacency. Even the less celebrated moves showed the same discipline. White space first, headlines later, if at all. These deals are often modest against LVMH's balance sheet. The company ended 2023 with substantial operating cash flow and a financing profile that allows patience. Smaller acquisitions usually do not threaten the cap table or require heroic synergy lines. They are funded from strength. That changes the bargaining temperature. Valuation in luxury is slippery. EBITDA captures current earnings. It misses brand heat, archive depth, licensing potential, and pricing power after distribution cleanup. I have watched bankers argue over a turn of multiple, while the real decision sat in a quieter column. How much better will this asset look inside the machine? The term sheet usually turns on control and continuity. Arnault has long preferred structures that preserve creative identity while tightening financial supervision. Founders may stay. Family names remain over the door. Back office, sourcing, real estate judgment, and geographic rollout become central. The price is the easy number. The price is never the deal. Then comes distribution. That is where many of these acquisitions earn their keep. A small brand outside LVMH often rents visibility. Inside the group, it can gain selective placement, landlord credibility, merchandising discipline, and access to travel retail or Sephora adjacency. Those advantages rarely fit into a press release, but they show up in margins. Friction enters because founders sell mythology, while acquirers buy process. The hidden liability is usually not debt. It is undisciplined wholesale, a weak merchandising calendar, or an inflated sense of addressable demand. I have seen board minutes where everyone praised the creative director and quietly circled inventory aging on the next page. Another strain comes from succession and ego. A family seller may say the brand needs a steward, then object when the steward starts acting like one. The walkaway clause matters. So do earnouts, veto rights, and store opening commitments. What the chairman wants is rarely what the chairman says he wants. Regulatory friction is lighter here than in telecom or banking, but luxury carries a different obstacle. Culture can destroy integration. Shift too fast, and the house loses its reason to exist. Move too slowly, and the EBITDA hole widens. The room knew before the press knew which side of that line a deal sat on. The immediate result is often underwhelming by design. Monday morning passes, the stock barely moves. Reporters ask why this asset mattered. On the first earnings call after a smaller deal, management usually gives little away. That silence is not evasive, it is portfolio discipline. LVMH seldom buys these houses for instant theater. A year or two later, the signals become clearer. Store count gets rationalized, wholesale narrows, prices move up without much drama. Product architecture sharpens. Sometimes a sleepy label becomes a profitable niche. Sometimes it becomes a launchpad for fragrance, leather, jewelry, or hospitality tie-ins. The payoff arrives in layers. There are misses, naturally. Luxury history is full of brands that looked better in the archive than in the shop. Some houses cannot survive the transition from founder energy to institutional cadence. Lawsuits, talent exits, and awkward relaunches follow. Even so, a large portfolio can tolerate contained disappointment better than a standalone owner can. I have seen this pattern before in Richmond. Johann Rupert spent years assembling maisons that looked overly specialized to outsiders. Cartier drew the attention. The smaller houses drew the skepticism. Over time, the collection created category authority, pricing insulation, and strategic depth. The pattern is older than the press. I saw another version in Estée Lauder's brand building and selective acquisitions. Fragrance and beauty portfolios often look messy from a distance. In the boardroom, they function like options on consumer identity. A niche label can become a distribution engine, a laboratory, or a defensive wall against changing taste. What 30 years in the room taught me is simple. Conglomerates buy strange-looking assets when the parent understands something about channels, patience, missing a deal, and getting accounted, and brand repair that the seller does not. The market asks whether the target is famous. Management asks whether the target can become inevitable under better ownership. So the verdict on LVMH's odd shopping list is straightforward. These are rarely vanity purchases. They are portfolio moves in a business where heritage compounds and distribution decides who gets to monetize it. I have seen this before. Here's what it means. Who's running this same playbook today? Comment one name.